This video is about sun in the partners, your partners, first house. And here, there's like a feeling of comfort with you and your partner. Because think about it. There's a lot that you have like familiar. There's a lot of familiarity there. Gotta stop. I struggle with that word. What do I mean? If you take the first house, really the first house when you know you're going from 1 through 12, okay, with the signs, 13, if you really want to go there. I haven't touched on that yet, but whatever. We got all day, we got all year, we got all life, okay? That's why I said subscribe to my channel. But, okay, if you take the first house and you place any sign there, it's just like repeating the zodiac wheel from starting with that sign. So if you take the first house, you have Libra there. It's okay. It's just like taking Libra, a Libra sign. Because remember, even with the sign that you're born with, your sun sign, the houses still have to play out. So it's kind of like with your sun, you're a Libra, but at the same time, you still have Scorpio in the second house, Sag in the third house. You know what I'm saying? Just like if your rising sign or the sign in your first house is Libra, you still have Scorpio in your second house, Sagittarius in the third house. You get what I'm saying? It's like all 12 signs still make up your sun energy. It plays out. Okay, it makes up the whole, not just your sun energy, but the aspect of your whole chart. Okay, so what do I mean? The first house, whether people know this or not, or they understand this or not, really does define us quite a bit. It's really how a lot of times the world sees us. We can really interact with our first house energy a lot more, especially like when we don't trust certain situations and we're not comfortable. We can put up our first house in defense. Like a lot of people say, yeah, your sun sign is that defense mechanism, and it can be, but you first have to get past the defensiveness of the first house, right? And the first house does naturally operate either way, but it's how we show up, and it's a lot connected to our projection. That's how we show up. So it's a lot connected to the way we think, sometimes more than the sun. The sun, a lot of times when you, like I said, you're dealing with ego, you're dealing with a persona more, okay? So what am I saying? Someone with a sun sign in, let me think of a sign I haven't used. Taurus may be very connected with someone with a first house in the sign of Taurus. Someone with the sun in Capricorn can be very connected to someone with Capricorn in the first house. Why? Because it's like the first house, the way you project yourself, the imagery of it all, or the approach of it all feeds the sun's ego, right? The sun feels like, okay, this first house person kind of validates the way I express myself, a lot of my creativity, my ideas, right? They're like the walking or the living persona of that. Sometimes the sun can even live through the first house person, or be like some sort of figure that, like lives through the first house person. So like if your sun is in your partner's first house and you're the first house person, then the sun person could be like, hey, why don't you do your hair like this, or dress like this, or act like that? And I'm not even saying this in a controlling way, because a first house person may have that understanding, like, okay, you know what, that's fine. Like, they can say this to me for the simple fact that, like, I kind of understand where the sun person is coming from, because look at them. Look at how they shine. The first house person admires the way that the sun person expresses themselves. The first house person feels like the sun person understands them and sometimes even makes them a better person. There's challenges here because like anything with the sun, there's that aspect of not seeing things clearly. The sun person could not really see the house person is clearly of like for who they really are, because remember, yes, the first house person is the first house person and has that conjunct energy with the sun person, but the first house person is still their own person. The first house person does have their own sun sign, mind you. So sometimes while the first house person wants to please or be in tune with the sun person, sometimes the first house person can feel like, okay, well, you know, sun person, like really back up because like I want to be my own self too. And it's like you're not seeing that for some reason. You're not seeing that. And the first house person can start resenting the sun person. The first house person can start feeling like, you know, like I'm starting to feel like you don't really see me for who I am. Like you're trying to make me into you, or you dismiss those qualities. You know, I don't know if I'm liking this too good. And this is where the competition sets in. There's competition. There is competition here just as much as there is like potential. But like I said, and I will continue to say, it's just about understanding what's going on and balancing it out. And it's very hard to do. Okay. So, and it depends on the signs that are here. Okay. So with these placements, but see where the competition comes in is that the sun is going to start looking around and feeling like the house person, it's like, okay, hold up. You know, I built you up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I made you who you were. You took my ideas, or you took my, you know, what I made you out of, what I made you to be. And now you're trying to be independent, and now you're trying to go do your own thing. And the house person is like, no, like, you didn't make me into anything. I was this person. And the sun person is like, no, I motivated you, which is the sun there is doing that. Right? And then the house person is like, well, I'm still my own person. Like, what? You're controlling. The house person starts thinking like the sun person feels like they're responsible over their entire being. And it's like, okay, you know, whatever. Thank you and fine. But like, honey, you didn't make me. Then competition sets in. Because now they're using against each other what first drawn them to each other in the first place. There's dead competition there because the sun is not going to want to be outshined. But you can definitely see this couple like taking pictures, walking around together, being seen together. People notice them. People could think highly of this couple because of the image. Now, that's not all. The house person could start feeling like, the sun person could start feeling like the house person does not appreciate them at all. Period. And how do you think the sun person is going to feel? Because remember, the sun is our ego. It's like, let's take a Pisces sun with a partner that has Pisces in the first house. The Pisces sun might start feeling like, you know what, you really are not appreciating the fact that I'm just like extremely loyal to you, that I am sacrificing a lot of my time and my energy to put up with you. And this could be like a Pisces in the first house person, but like a sun in Aries or something. So, all of this connects with each other. Like, all of this has to go into play with each other. And then, remember when I was talking about the fact that, one person feeds off the other, people can see them as like, oh yeah, they're this power couple. So we have this power couple, we looking good on the internet, you know what I'm saying? The gram is shaking. But then it's like, depending on the rest of the chart, when you go deeper into the relationship, like more behind the scenes, like the sun may feel like, maybe I don't really have as much as in common with the first house person as I thought. Like, maybe I'm not really seeing them for who they really are. And the first house person is like, you know what? The sun person is really not understanding me because they feel like they made me or they're in control of me. They're not really, I don't think they really understand who I am. And both start to really look at each other sideways. It doesn't mean that they can't be together. Like I said, it just depends on what's in the rest of the chart. But initially, anytime you're dealing with the sun and just the sun in chemistry, to the point of, it plays a very big part. But a lot of people are realizing that when it comes to a relationship, they're determining the fact that, okay, no, the relationship has to be a lot more a lot more deeper than the fact that, okay, yeah, you like to laugh, I like to laugh. We like to picnic, we like to fish. The world loves the way that we look. Because if you really want to have a fulfilling relationship, you got to be able to go deeper. You got to be able to understand the other person's emotions and feelings and mind. And you got to be around them when they're not on their up and up. You have to let them have space to be themselves. You have to encourage them, and you have to build them up, but then understand that you're doing this not to control them because one day they may leave. But it's like, okay, I built them up, but it was out of the fact that this is what I do. I'm with you. I want you to be a better person, and in return, it makes me a better person. Okay, kudos. It's not about control or anything. It's not even about your own personal ego. It's what you really end up finding out. However, sun in the partner's first house, there's a lot of attraction there and mutual attraction. It's more based on attraction. The sun person could be aroused by the look and the image of the first house person. And the first house person can like and dig the vibes of the sun person, and this could even be good sometimes, like in couples where, the guy is the sun person and the female is the house person, because the female is going to feel like, oh, okay, I'm feeling like he's impressed by me, or I'm feeling like I have this type of power over him, because he loves the way I look, or it goes over well for the simple fact with the way society tries to pin women as the learners and the males as teachers. But where it messes up is that if you look at women as the wisdom aspect of the relationship, it's kind of hard. I mean, you can also see it come off as that real traditional aspect of relationships, and then it's no room. It's hard for the woman to really implant her wisdom into the guy. So a lot of times, or into the man. So a lot of times it looks like a whole lot of projection onto the female, right? And then in return, the guy's like, okay, whatever. When you have the female as the sun and then the rising sign as the male, we getting out of tradition a lot. And, the male kind of feels sometimes overpowered by the female's energy and feels like, I can't get my ego stroked like in a typical relationship. But the woman is able to instill her wisdom into the male, and the male is more receptive of it versus the other way around. So you end up getting a relationship where the female in the relationship could be very empowered, which is good, because a lot of times in return, the woman is going to be like, you know what, I really want to empower my man, and I want to stick with him. I want to be with him. And you're able to push that man past certain limits using wisdom and intuition. And then there's an emotional component whenever wisdom is involved. And, the female or the woman could be more emotionally attached to the man versus the other way around. The other way around, there's admiration there, but with the female in the first house, in the sun, and the male in the first house, it's a lot of emotional aspects that's going on here. Now, this could be challenging for the male or for a man, if he's feeling challenged with his masculinity. If he sees a woman empowering him as belittling his masculinity or whatever. Now, this is not just for men and women. I'm just talking in general because this is more about the feminine and masculine principles that's playing out and who's assigning themselves or who's attaching themselves to that role, if that makes any sense to you guys, okay? So, yeah, this has been the sun, one person's son in their partner's first house. And how do you really work with this? You have to understand that, like I said, you're empowering each other possibly, but that doesn't mean that the relationship is there to last for a long time. You have to go deeper into the chart. But that mutual attraction is there. That could possibly keep you coming back to each other. It's still, there's different variations because the only danger here is when you start kind of growing apart from each other. And if it's not really based on deeper love and admiration, you get a situation where if the person changes out of that image that you see them as, it's like, I don't want them anymore. I'm not attracted anymore. They're not attractive to me anymore. If the person is, they were one size when you met them, or they were one way when you met them, it's kind of like, okay, you need to remain that way. So it's really with this placement, which people do not speak of a lot. They talk about the mutual attraction, but think about attraction and think about like time as we age. Think about Saturn energy when it hits in. It's like, yeah, that mutual attraction is there, but at the same time, what happens if it leaves, So it can't be the only aspect that you're going by, or you can't be stuck there. There's a lot of pressure there because, like I said, you start falling out of that image that the person sees you as, and then it's like, okay. All right, so that's going to be all for the sun in your partner's first house synastry. And I'm Butterfly, of course. Subscribe because I will be back.